It was supposed to be just an hour. 60 minutes of peace, quiet, and solitude. Nothing out of the ordinary. The house had always been my safe space. It wasn't too big, not too small. A two-story home nestled in a quiet neighborhood, where the loudest noise was usually a dog barking or a car passing by. My parents had left for a dinner party, leaving me alone for the evening. I had no reason to feel uneasy. But that changed quickly. It started small, as these things always do. I had just settled on the couch, scrolling mindlessly on my phone, when I heard it. Faint, almost imperceptible, but definitely there. Creak from upstairs. Froze. My eyes flicked to the staircase leading to the second floor. I wanted to dismiss it. Old houses made noises. Wood contracted, pipes expanded, there were always explanations. But then it happened again. Another creak. Little louder. A little closer. I swallowed hard, my fingers tightening around my phone. The rational part of my brain screamed at me to stay calm, but a sinking feeling in my gut told me otherwise. I wasn't alone. Fading sense of safety. I stood up slowly, my ears straining for another sound. The silence stretched on, thick and suffocating. My heart pounded as I took cautious steps toward the staircase. "Hello." My voice sounded small, weak. No answer. I licked my lips, debating whether I should go upstairs to check or pretend I hadn't heard anything. Logic told me it was nothing. Fear told me to get out of the house. Then came the third sound. A deliberate, unmistakable footstep. Right above me. I staggered back, my breath hitching. My parents weren't home, and the doors were locked. No one else had a key. Wow. The floorboards creaked again, moving toward the hallway. Someone or something was up there. The uneasy exploration. I couldn't ignore it anymore. My body moved before my brain could stop it. I grabbed the closest object, a heavy flashlight, and with shaky hands made my way up the stairs. Each step felt like a countdown to something I wasn't ready to face. The hallway light flickered slightly, casting elongated shadows on the walls. I reached the top, my breath coming in shallow gasps. The hallway stretched before me, doors slightly ajar. My bedroom was on the right, the guest room on the left, my parents' room at the end of the hall. I hesitated. Then a whisper, "Oh soft, oh close," came from my room. I tightened my grip on the flashlight and stepped forward, every part of me screaming to turn around. The door was slightly open, revealing a sliver of darkness inside. I reached out, my fingers trembling as they touched the wood. And then, bang! The door slammed shut before I could react. A sharp gasp tore from my throat as I stumbled back, my heart hammering against my ribs. My breathing came in ragged gulps as I stood frozen, staring at the closed door. That was not the wind. That was not my imagination. Someone was inside my room. The unseen presence. I took a shaky step back. My instincts screamed at me to run, but my body refused to move. Then, just when I thought the silence couldn't be more terrifying, voice. A whimsical, child's voice. "Come in." I felt my soul leave my body. My blood turned ice cold. There were no children in this house. I forced my feet to move, backing away until I reached the staircase. My trembling hand gripped the railing as I debated my next move. Should I call someone? Run outside? Then I heard something even worse. The doorknob turned. Slowly, deliberately. Click. The door creaked open an inch, revealing only darkness beyond. Bolted. I took the stairs 2 at a time, nearly tripping in my rush to reach the front door. My hands fumbled with the lock, my breath coming in panicked gasps. Just as I wrenched the door open, a whisper slithered down the staircase from above. "You shouldn't have ignored me." I didn't look back. Ran. The cold night air hit my face like a slap, but I didn't stop. My bare feet pounded against the pavement as I sprinted down the empty street. I didn't dare turn around. I knew if I did I might see something I wasn't ready to face. My breathing came in ragged gasps. My mind screamed at me to keep moving, but my body ached with exhaustion. Where could I go? My parents wouldn't be home for another hour, and I had no idea what I was running from. But I knew one thing for certain. Something unnatural was in my house. And it had spoken to me. A false sense of safety. I spotted a dim glow ahead, my neighbor Mrs. Callahan's porch light. She was an older woman, kind but reclusive. If anyone was home, maybe I could use her phone. I sprinted up her driveway, nearly tripping over my own feet. My shaking hands pounded against the door. "Mrs. Callahan." My voice cracked. "Please, I need help." Silence. I knocked harder, glancing over my shoulder. The street was empty, but my house loomed in the distance, its windows dark and hollow. Something was watching me. I could feel it. I banged again. "Mrs. Callahan, please." Still no answer. A horrible thought slithered into my mind. What if whatever was in my house had already been here? My stomach twisted. I took a step back, my breath uneven. Then, from behind the door, click. The lock turned. I exhaled in relief as the door creaked open. But as I peered inside, my relief turned to confusion. The house was pitch black. Not a single light on. "Mrs. Callahan," I whispered. No response. I hesitated on the threshold, my instincts screaming at me to run. But my phone was inside my house, and I had no way to call for help. If she was here, I needed to find her. Steeling myself, I stepped inside. A house that should have been empty. The air inside was heavy, stale. The scent of dust and something faintly metallic filled my nose. I reached for the light switch. Nothing. Power was out. Or had been cut. The unease inside me thickened. "Mrs. Callahan." I called again, barely above a whisper. A floorboard creaked. Not upstairs but right behind me. I spun around, my heart slamming into my ribs. Darkness. The open door yawned like a black hole, leading back to the safety of the night. I needed to leave. I turned to bolt. The door shut on its own. Panic surged through me as I fumbled with the doorknob, twisting and pulling, but it wouldn't budge. It was locked. I was trapped. Then, the worst sound yet. Slow, dragging breath. It came from deeper inside the house. My fingers trembled against the door. I forced myself to turn around. The hallway stretched in front of me, impossibly long in the dark. And at the very end of it, shadow. Waiting. I couldn't see its face. I couldn't see its eyes. But I could feel them. Staring. The air turned ice cold as the shadow took a single step forward. And then, in a voice far too familiar, it whispered, "You shouldn't have ignored me." The escape. I moved before my brain could process it. I turned and threw my body against the door, kicking and slamming my fists against it. My breath came in panicked gasps as the whispering grew closer, the heavy footsteps echoing through the hall. I didn't care how. I didn't care if I had to break every bone in my body. I had to get out. Just as I felt warm breath against my neck, the door flew open. I tumbled forward onto the porch, hitting the ground hard. Pain jolted up my arms, but I didn't stop. I scrambled to my feet and ran as fast as my legs would carry me. I didn't look back. Not when I heard the front door slam shut behind me. Not when I heard something whisper my name. And not even when I finally reached the street and saw my parents' car pulling into our driveway. The aftermath. They found me shaking outside, too terrified to explain what had happened. My mother held me close while my father searched the house. Nothing was out of place. No sign of forced entry. No power outage at Mrs. Callahan's house. No shadow. But I knew what I had seen. I knew what had spoken to me. That night, I lay awake in my room, every light on. My parents had reassured me that it was just my imagination, that stress and exhaustion had played tricks on my mind. But as the clock struck midnight, I heard it again. Creak. Footstep. Right above me. The whisper came next. "You shouldn't have ignored me." And this time, it was coming from inside my room.